When I first started in this business, there were families who had a passing of a baton. The older generation left, aha, I'm gone, I'm out of here, I'm close to 60, I'm out of here, right? Give this thing to this kid, move him up to the front office, and I'm leaving. And then, of course, a few years later, they'd want a little bit more, and they'd be back in for various kinds of things. It doesn't happen that way. Nowadays, the common practice is at least 3 generations who are somewhere crossing in a business at the same time. Is that your experience? Almost every family I know, there's a 50-some-year-old generation, a 20-some-year-old generation who's biting at the bit to get into some part of what the family action is, and the elders who are, you know, in their late 70s, you know, anywhere from about 75 to 80, still feeling vital, like they've got some piece of wisdom that they want to contribute, and oftentimes they do have tremendous wisdom that they should be contributing. And those 3 generations have to figure out how to manage together. So that when you're talking about transitions nowadays, you're talking about 3 generations who are moving together in time for about 8 to 10 years. So if you're talking transitions, it's not going to happen in a short period of time. It's going to take 8 to 10 years to do it. And it's going to be more than one transition. And you have to worry. You cannot make a decision. One of the most difficult client situations I'm working with right now is 2 brothers made a very smart business decision. They'd owned, they're the 3rd generation owning a very, very large farm and meatpacking plant way out in the middle of Pennsylvania. They've done really, really well. They knew they were coming up against, the mad cow thing had been hit twice already. They knew they were coming up against many strict regulations that they didn't want to deal with. They were coming up, they were both in their 50s. They had 5 sons, all of whom were in their 20s. One of whom was just hitting 30. And of the 5 sons, 3 were in the business, their main business. They had an offer. They refused it once. They came back, Cargill came back another time and said, we really want to buy your place. They offered them money that way beyond, you know, it's like what we all maybe fantasize, somebody's going to come in and give us money for what we've built all these years, way beyond what these guys ever thought was possible. And they said yes. Aha, they said yes. But they thought the decision was only the 2 of them. They had 5 sons who thought their whole pathway in life was to that business. They were totally tied, which is one of the things we're going to talk about in a minute, totally tied to the legacy business. They had never thought about anything beyond it. They had never thought about how you develop people beyond it so that you think beyond it. That business went, and these three kids who were already in it became totally derailed in their life. It has taken them an additional 4 years to figure out, get back on track and figure out where they're going. Not because, I mean, certainly they have enough money, but the issue is a feeling of, you took away that which we were going to be in and that we saw ourselves in forever. So the transition is really complex, and this transition didn't just include 2 guys who made a decision but never sat down ahead of time with their family and said, we're thinking about this. We got this great offer on the table. What might it do to all of us going forward? How might it change what we're doing? Are there some things we ought to be? Nobody ever thought about it. Although they're really sensitive and good guys, they didn't think about it. So any transition, the stakeholders are more complex, and the transition is longer and more complex. We are now 4 years out from that sale, and it's a much more complex thing, because what we're now up against is both brothers are now thinking to themselves, they're getting bored. Right? They're used to being out there working every day. Now they got plenty of money, but somebody else manages their money, and you know what's happening to money nowadays. So they're getting bored, and they're thinking, what are we going to do with our life? And you know, I used to feel, one of them said to me the other day, I used to feel so much more in control. You know, if things were going bad, at least I could go to the office and I could do something. You know, I could, even if I wasn't making, even if nothing I did produced bucks at the end of the day, I could do something, and I felt like I was more in control. I don't feel any much in control. Well, that's about what their sons are saying too, but in a different direction.